brilliant man once said, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." And Time magazine's cover of January 16, 1984 exactly did that. It portrayed an image of a broken Africa, an Africa filled with stories of coup d'etat, conflicts, and corruption. And just a minor detail, it also tells the story of a sad Africa and a famished Africa. However, a decade or so later, the Time magazine's cover changed a little bit to a different tone, a different feel. It showed a rising Africa. And since then, the story has continued to repeat in the Time magazine's cover, showing a growing, booming Africa. And that's the story that I'd like to share with you today. My name is Lunta Di La Paulo, and I am the founder of LCP Consulting and Investments. We help businesses find investing opportunities, identify investing opportunities in Africa, and also help local government and national governments in Africa provide efficient and effective goods and services to their constituents. And today, I'd like to guide you to one of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, Angola. In this guide, I will provide you a basic and general overview of Angola. I'll discuss a little bit about the geopolitical position and location of Angola, key figures in terms of demographics, and also some social, political facts. And I'll share a very briefly about the tax system, some key sectors in this country, and some possible investing opportunities. And then at the end, I'll provide some key resources. So before I go any further, I'd like to open Google Maps so that we can locate Angola in the map to have a better understanding of where this country is. So just bear with me for a second. Now going back to our guide. So first things first. Let's look at Angola. Angola is a former Portuguese colony. The country that we know today as Angola was occupied by different kingdoms, and some of the very famous that history still recalls are the Kingdom of Congo, Dindongo, and Matamba. And we remember the Queen Zingambandi, who was the queen of the Kingdom of Ndongo. After centuries of Portuguese occupation that started in the 16th, 17th century, Angola gained its independence in November 11th, 1975. But unfortunately, this country was launched into a brutal civil war that ended in 2002. So about 3 decades of civil war that Angola saw. The country, however, saw a significant boom in the past 15 years or so since its reconciliation. And Angola today, let me go back to the map just to give you a little bit of where Angola is located. So Angola is right here. As you can see, Angola is the only Portuguese-speaking country really breaching the French-speaking Africa to the English-speaking Africa, the Anglophone and Francophone. So there is DRC, the Congo-Brazzaville, Zambia around. These countries here speak mainly French. Gabon and Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, they all speak English. And Angola has a very strategic position because it also has one of the largest coasts in the continent. It's a lot of, and have a a large port in Luanda and also in Benguela that kind of facilitates the entrance of goods across the world to the rest of the continent. So it's a very important strategic place in the continent. So back to our slides, what we see in Angola, besides being a bridge between the Francophone to Anglophone Africa, it also provide a lot of initiative, and it's becoming an important key player in Africa's politics, in the Great Lakes, in the SADC region, in terms of conflict resolution. Angola is the top 5th largest economy in Africa, following Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Algeria. So, and Angola is also the second largest oil producer in Africa and the third largest producer of diamonds after DRC and Botswana. And Angola provides political leadership in the continent and has become a source of political and stability and peacekeeping mechanism, supporting both the UN, the African Union, and other international organizations. So moving on, let's look at some of the key figures about Angola. Currently, Angola has a total population of above 30 million people, and the large percent of this population continues to be under the age of 25 years old. As you may know, Africa has at least 60% of its population under the age of 18 years old. So it's a very young continent with a lot of potential, a lot of people with drive and desire to succeed and make their continent a better place to live. In terms of labor force, Angola has been presenting a very small labor force compared to the total population, mainly because of the current economic situation. Angola has been undergoing a major financial crisis that started at the end of the 2013. So the labor force, although it has increased consistently by tiny margins and in the last few years, but the economic crisis has been affecting substantially the country. Now let's look at the top cities in Angola. Luanda, the capital of Angola, it's still the largest city in terms of population. It's the most populous city in Angola. Its population is getting close to 3 million people. And then there is the city of Ndalatandu in Kwanza North, the city of Wambo, Lobito, Benguela, and Lubango. Those are the top spots, the top places in Angola, and are places with a lot of opportunity, potential for agriculture, for service type of investments. There are places for manufacturing as well, as we will see in the next few slides. Now let's turn back to economic figures. So Angola has, as I mentioned earlier, shown an incredible story and explosive growth in the last decade or so. The country has consistently, as you can see in the GDP in the US dollar graph, the country's GDP has been way below 20 billion for most of the country's history since its independence. However, after the Civil War, as you can see in the early 2000s, the country's GDP exploded substantially. And the data suggests that Angola was the fastest growing country in the world, even beating China, between the years of 2000, 2005 to 2010, averaging an average growth of at least 13.8% a year. So as you can see, the country's GDP in 2013 before the economic growth was very close to 140 billion. Although most economies in Africa are small, this is really important to look. However, in the last few years, the GDP has declined, but it seems to be coming back up with the new reforms in the political arena. So as I mentioned earlier, Angola is the fifth largest economy in Africa after Algeria. And in terms of trade balance, Angola holds a trade surplus. Its imports are still considerably smaller than the export of the country. Angola export a lot of oil. As I mentioned earlier, the Angola is the second largest oil producer in Africa. So most of the GDP of the country income derived from its oil exports. And the next thing we can see is Angola's trading partner. We can see where Angola sells most of its export. Angola's main exports go to South Africa. Is probably the largest trading partner the country has in Africa, and then its former colonial power. Portugal is another trading partner. India, China, the US, and Brazil are the top export destination. Angola currently produces about 1.4 million of barrel of crude oil per day, and the graph here on top shows a little bit of that distribution of export. It's mainly petroleum, diamonds, and natural gas. And the graph at the end shows the top trading partner, and China continues to be the top trading partner of Angola. Now let's look at the imports of the country, what Angola imports. It also could serve as a good place to look at things like what international investor could target in the Angolan market to export to Angola. So the main import continues to be refined petroleum. As contradictory as it seems, the largest producer of petroleum is the largest importer of petroleum still. So Angola imports a lot of petroleum, refined petroleum, because it has a small refinery that doesn't respond to the energy needs of the country. And the main imports are still from the very same places. China, Portugal, Korea is also one of the key importers to Angola. And Angola imports a lot of food, mainly meat, sugar, machinery, excavation. As you can see, petroleum imports are still the main, and passenger and cargo ships. So this covers a little bit about our economics places. We looked at the demographic aspect. We looked at Angola's basic economic facts, the GDP, its growth, and we looked at exports and import. Now we will move at taxes in Angola. Taxes are the major concerns of investors in any country, any place that people want to invest. So Angola's current industrial tax, which is similar to corporate tax, is capped to 35%. However, certain sectors such as mining and oil exploration have a different tax regime or taxing system. And then there is investment income taxes, which is applicable to dividends, interest, royalties, and there are also exceptions, reduction, exemptions, and things like that. And there is property transfer taxes. These taxes is imposed on acquisition of land or real estate. And Angola has a booming real estate given the population growth. And lastly, this is not really a concern for most investors, is the labor tax, unless the investor or the company plans to hire people in land. But it's not really a main concern for most investors. For more information about investors, we can talk about it in a different episode of this podcast series. So there are 4 key sectors for investors who are considering to enter the Angolan market. The first is still the energy sector, which is predominantly controlled by US oil companies, French, Italian, and English companies. So you can see there ExxonMobil, Chevron, Eni, Total, and BP. So they're still the largest players in the energy sector in Angola. They control most of the blocks, or if not all of the blocks. And they work with Sonangol, which is the Angola's national oil company that works in joint venture with other energy company in the Angolan energy sector. Agriculture is a growing sector in Angola. It's still very, very underexplored, but however there is a prospect of growth in the near future. Data suggests that 50% of the population in Angola work in the agriculture sector, and you can see only 100,000 arable hectares are used out of the 5 million of the agricultural land in Angola. So it's a country that is in growth mode, and there is a lot of potential and opportunities for growth, not only in energy, agriculture. The service industry is still very small. It's mainly controlled by banking and financial banking companies, mainly communication companies, a little bit of transportation, and tourism is becoming popular recently with recent achievement of the country. Mining is one of the areas that I failed to include as a separate category, but it's important to mention because Angola not only is rich in diamonds, but also several other minerals that are used in construction industry and other industries as well. And real estate, as I mentioned, is one of the, if not the top fastest sector in Angola, both residential and commercial. Businesses need space to operate, people need spaces to live, and people will always need houses to live. And Angola has the proper market for that. Not only Angola, but across the continent of Africa. As the data suggests, Africa will have 1.2 billion people by 2030. And this population is largely young people. And these young people will go and get married and start family. So the need for housing will continue to increase. And the need for food will continue to increase. So businesses in agribusiness, services, in banking, communication, transportation are still gonna be relevant. Energy needs are absolutely going to increase. However, it's important to mention that even though Angola has relied significantly on oil production, in the next 10 or 20 years, it's projected that the country will start to diversify into non-fossil fuel sectors, so more into renewable energy as the trend is becoming more prevalent. And lastly, I want to touch base on some investment opportunities that investors and businesses can spot in Angola. So there are three possible strategies that investors and businesses can obtain or can use to enter the Angolan market. Currently, there are dozens and dozens of state-owned businesses in Angola, and the Angolan government is starting to sell a lot of these assets, a lot of its interest and stake in these companies. So it's a good time to enter in the Angolan market and to buy these companies and bring good management that can take off in this market, given the fact that in the next 5 to 10 years, the Angolan economy is going to have a functional stock exchange. Currently, the country has a bond exchange, and soon it's planning to also adopt a derivative to start trading derivative products. And so besides the acquisition of state-owned companies or privately owned companies, there is also the possibility of exporting to Angola either goods or services and create joint venture with local individuals to start selling goods in Angola. And the last strategy is for a company seeking new markets or reduce their operational cost is to move their operations in Angola. Typically, these last one have a lot of government incentive. There is an Angolan agency that is in charge of foreign private investments that work with international investors, people who want to invest in Angola, and help them in regards to several services. So this is a good time to be investing in Angola, and I hope this guide offered some guidance and gave you a general idea of what you can expect. So if you'd like to hear more or to talk more about Angola, to discuss some possibilities, please do not hesitate to reach us out. And at the end, there are some key resources for investors or businesses. There is the National Agency for Private Investments. There is Guichê Único, which is the online sources run by the Angolan government to help people register and start businesses in a very quick and easy way. The Angola's National Bank and the Association of Banks in Angola, A-Bank. Both of these institutions, the National Bank, of course, provides a lot of economic data and insights. The E-Bank is the Association of Banks operating in Angola. And there is the Accountants Association, the Lawyers Association, and many other resources. So if you'd like to reach us out, we are available. Our information is on the screen, and please feel free to reach out in case you have any question. And thank you for your time, and I hope to see you next time.